I walked into that boutique on a Wednesday afternoon thinking I was just going to buy a dress, a simple blue dress for my niece's wedding. But the shopkeeper looked at me with disgust and said 5 words that I'll never forget. "You don't belong in here." I stood there holding a dress on a hanger, 60 years old, and suddenly I was 12 again, being told I was wrong, broken, something to be hidden. But this time, I didn't leave quietly. This time, I found my voice. My name is Josephine, and I'm 61 years old. I've been living as myself for only 7 years, which means I spent 53 years pretending to be someone named Joseph. 53 years of birthdays celebrated for the wrong person. 53 years of looking in mirrors and seeing a stranger. 53 years of waiting for permission to exist. And even now, 7 years after transition, I still encounter people who think they have the right to tell me where I belong. I was born in 1963 in a conservative small town where boys were boys and girls were girls, and there was no space for anything in between. From the time I was very young, I knew something was different about me. I didn't want to play with trucks. I wanted my sister's dolls. I didn't want to wear rough jeans. I wanted soft dresses with ribbons. But my father was a stern man who believed in traditional roles, and my mother was too afraid of him to defend me. So I learned to hide. I learned to be Joseph, the quiet boy who never quite fit in but tried his best to disappear. I got married at 25 because that's what men did. Her name was Patricia, and she was a good woman who deserved honesty I couldn't give her. We had one daughter, Amy, and I loved that little girl more than my own life. But being a father, being a husband, being Joseph, it was killing me slowly, one day at a time. The marriage lasted 18 years before Patricia found the women's clothes I had been secretly buying and hiding in the garage. She didn't yell. She just looked at me with such sadness and said, "I can't live with someone I don't know." We divorced quietly. Amy was 16 and she sided with her mother. She said I was selfish, that I was ruining our family, that I was embarrassing. She stopped speaking to me. That was 20 years ago, and in all that time we've only spoken maybe a dozen times, always brief, always painful. I didn't transition right away. I was 43 when the marriage ended, and I was terrified. I moved to the city, got a small apartment, started seeing a therapist. For years I lived in this strange in-between space. At home, I was Josephine. I wore dresses, did my makeup, felt like myself. But outside, I was still Joseph. I went to work as Joseph. I ran errands as Joseph. I existed in public as the person everyone expected me to be. It wasn't until I was 54 that something broke inside me. I was walking past a mirror in a department store, dressed as Joseph, and I stopped and really looked at myself. I saw an old man in uncomfortable clothes, pretending, hiding, wasting whatever time he had left. And I thought, if I die tomorrow, I will have spent my entire life being someone else. Is that really how I want this to end? That night, I made a decision. I was going to transition fully. I was going to live as Josephine, in public, all the time, regardless of who accepted it or who didn't. I was 54 years old, and I was finally going to be myself. The medical transition was slow. Hormones at my age don't work as dramatically as they do for younger people, but they helped. My skin softened. My body changed subtly, but more than the physical changes, I changed emotionally. I started walking differently, talking differently, existing differently. I legally changed my name. I told my employer, a small accounting firm, and surprisingly, they were supportive. I updated all my documents. I bought a new wardrobe, and I started living as Josephine full-time. It wasn't easy. People stared. Some people laughed. I lost friends I thought would understand. I faced discrimination in bathrooms and stores and restaurants. But I also found community. I found other transgender women, especially older ones like me who had transitioned later in life. We formed our own support group, met monthly, shared our stories. They became my family when my biological family couldn't be. My daughter Amy got married 3 years ago. She didn't invite me to the wedding. She said it would be too uncomfortable, that her in-laws were conservative, that she didn't want to explain me. That rejection hurt more than I can express. But I sent her a gift anyway, and a card that said I loved her, that I was proud of her, that I understood even though it broke my heart. Now she's pregnant with her first child, and 2 months ago she called me. She said she'd been thinking a lot about family, about what kind of mother she wanted to be, about the values she wanted to pass on. She said she wanted to try again with me. She said she wanted her child to know their grandmother. She invited me to her baby shower and then to the wedding of her husband's younger sister, my niece by marriage technically, though we'd never met. I was thrilled. Terrified, but thrilled. Amy asked me to please dress appropriately, by which she meant conservatively. She asked me to wear minimal makeup, to keep my jewelry simple, to try not to draw attention. I understood what she was really asking. She was asking me to make myself smaller, less visible, less obviously transgender. And I agreed because I wanted to be there, because I was willing to compromise if it meant rebuilding our relationship. So I needed a dress. Something elegant but understated. Something that would help me blend in, that wouldn't give conservative in-laws anything to whisper about. I wanted navy blue or soft gray, knee-length, modest. I wanted to look like any other 60-year-old woman attending a wedding. I had been shopping at department stores, buying clothes online, avoiding boutiques because they always felt intimidating. But there was this beautiful shop downtown called Bella's Boutique that I passed sometimes on my walks. It had lovely dresses in the window, exactly the style I was looking for. And I thought, why not? Why should I be afraid? I'm a woman shopping for a dress. That's normal. That's allowed. So last Wednesday, I walked into Bella's Boutique. It was a small shop, elegant, with soft lighting and classical music playing. There were racks of dresses organized by color, a few other customers browsing quietly. Behind the counter was a woman in her 40s, perfectly put together, with sharp eyes that assessed me the moment I walked in. I smiled at her and started browsing. I found a lovely navy dress, simple and elegant, exactly what I needed. I held it up, checking the size, and that's when the shopkeeper approached me. "Excuse me," she said, her voice cold. "Can I help you with something?" "Yes," I said, trying to sound confident. "I'd like to try this on, please." She looked at me, then at the dress, then back at me. "That's a women's dress." I felt my heart start to pound, but I kept my voice steady. "Yes, I know. I'm looking for a dress to wear to a wedding." She crossed her arms. "Sir, this is a women's boutique. Perhaps you're looking for a costume shop." The other customers had stopped browsing and were watching now. I felt my face flush, but I stood my ground. "I'm not looking for a costume," I said quietly. "I'm a woman, and I need a dress." She laughed. It wasn't a kind laugh. It was the laugh of someone who thinks you're ridiculous, who thinks you're a joke. "You're not a woman. You're a man in makeup, and you don't belong in here." If you're listening to me on Oma True Stories, thank you for letting my truth be heard. Because what happened next, standing in that boutique with people staring at me, was one of the hardest moments of my life. But it was also one of the most important. I could have left. Part of me wanted to leave, to run out of that shop and never come back, to go home and cry and give up on the idea of attending that wedding. But I thought about Amy and her baby. I thought about all the years I had hidden, all the times I had made myself small to make other people comfortable. I thought about the 12-year-old who was told he was wrong, and the 54-year-old who decided to finally be herself. And I said, I am a woman. My name is Josephine. I am 61 years old and I have every right to shop here. I'm a paying customer and I'm simply trying to buy a dress. The shopkeeper's face turned red. I have the right to refuse service to anyone. And I'm refusing you. Please leave my store. One of the other customers, a younger woman maybe in her 30s, spoke up. Why are you being so rude to her? She's just shopping. The shopkeeper turned on her. This is my store and I decide who shops here. If you have a problem with that, you can leave too. The young woman looked at me, then back at the shopkeeper. Then she put down the dress she was holding and said, You know what? I will leave. I don't give my money to bigots. And she walked out. Another customer, an older woman with gray hair, hesitated. Then she said quietly to me, I'm sorry this is happening to you. This is wrong. She looked at the shopkeeper and shook her head. Then she left too. Suddenly it was just me and the shopkeeper and one other customer who looked uncomfortable and was pretending to examine a scarf very intently. See what you've done? The shopkeeper hissed at me. You've disrupted my business. Now get out before I call the police. I was shaking, but I held up my phone. I've been recording this entire conversation. You're discriminating against me based on my gender identity, which is illegal in this city. So go ahead and call the police. I'd be happy to show them this video. I wasn't actually recording, but she didn't know that. And the threat was enough. Her face changed. She looked uncertain now, maybe realizing she had crossed a line. Fine, she said. Buy your dress and leave. I don't want to give you my money, I said. And I meant it. I put the dress back on the rack. I'll find somewhere else to shop. Somewhere that treats all women with respect. I walked out of that boutique with my head high, even though my legs were shaking. And as soon as I got around the corner, I sat down on a bench and started crying. Not because she had hurt me, though she had, but because I was proud of myself. For the first time in my life, I had stood up for myself completely, without apologizing, without shrinking. The young woman who had walked out was waiting by the bench. Hey, she said. Are you okay? I nodded, wiping my eyes. Yes, thank you for speaking up in there. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did, she said. What she did was horrible. Look, I don't know much about being transgender, and I'll be honest, I don't fully understand it. But I know wrong when I see it, and that was wrong. She helped me find another boutique 3 blocks away, a place called Timeless Elegance. The owner there was a kind woman named Maria who listened to what I needed and brought me 4 different dresses to try. She treated me exactly like any other customer. She complimented my taste. She helped me find the perfect dress, a beautiful dusty blue with elegant sleeves. And when I thanked her for being kind, she looked confused. I'm just doing my job, she said. Why wouldn't I be kind to you? I bought the dress. I bought a matching scarf, too. And I left that shop feeling seen, feeling valued, feeling like maybe the world was slowly getting better. One kind person at a time. That evening, I posted about the experience on social media. I didn't name Bella's boutique, but I described what happened and thanked the customers who had supported me. Within hours, the post had been shared hundreds of times. People reached out to say they had experienced similar discrimination. Others shared the names of inclusive businesses. Some people sent hateful comments, of course, telling me I was delusional, that I was a man, that I deserved what happened. But mostly, people were supportive. The next day, I got a call from a local reporter who had seen my post. She wanted to interview me about discrimination against transgender people in retail spaces. I agreed. The interview ran in the newspaper and online, and suddenly my story was everywhere. People were talking about it. Some praised me for speaking out. Others criticized me for making a scene. But something unexpected happened. The reporter had figured out which shop it was. Apparently, several other people had posted about negative experiences there. Bella's boutique started getting negative reviews. People posted about the incident. And a week later, I got an email from the shopkeeper. It was a long email, trying to explain herself without quite apologizing. She said she wasn't transphobic, that she was just uncomfortable, that she didn't know how to handle the situation. She said her business was suffering and asked if I would consider removing my post or making a statement that we had resolved things. I thought about it for a long time. Part of me wanted revenge. Part of me wanted her to suffer the way she had made me suffer. But mostly, I just felt tired. Tired of fighting. Tired of having to prove my humanity over and over again. I'm sharing this on Oma True Stories because somewhere, someone like me might need this tonight. Someone needs to hear what I decided to do and why. I wrote back to her. I said I wouldn't remove my post because what happened needed to be documented, but I offered to meet with her, to talk about transgender issues, to help her understand. She agreed. We met at a coffee shop. It was awkward at first. She was defensive, making excuses. But slowly, as we talked, something shifted. I told her my story. I told her about being Joseph, about hiding for 53 years, about the courage it took to finally be Josephine. I told her about losing my daughter, about the discrimination I face daily, about how exhausting it is to constantly justify your existence. And she listened. Really listened. She told me about her upbringing, about her conservative family, about the things she had been taught about gender and morality. She admitted she had never actually known a transgender person before, that I was just an abstract concept to her, something strange and threatening. By the end of our conversation, she was crying. She apologized, genuinely this time. She said she understood now that she had been cruel, that she had treated me as less than human. She asked if there was anything she could do to make it right. I told her the best thing she could do was learn from it. I told her to educate herself about transgender people, to treat her next transgender customer with respect and dignity. I told her that understanding doesn't happen overnight, but willingness to learn is a start. I wore my dusty blue dress to my niece's wedding last weekend. Amy introduced me to everyone as her mother, using my correct name and pronouns. Some people were uncomfortable. Some people asked invasive questions. But Amy stood beside me the whole time, defending me, correcting people who used the wrong pronouns, making it clear that I was her mother and I was welcome there. At one point, she pulled me aside and hugged me. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry for all the years I wasted being angry instead of trying to understand. I'm sorry I wasn't there for you." I held her tight and told her I forgave her. Because I do. Because holding on to anger would only hurt both of us. Because she's trying now, and that's what matters. The shopkeeper from Bella's boutique, her name is Rebecca, has reached out a few times since our coffee meeting. She's asked questions about transgender issues, about proper etiquette, about how to make her shop more inclusive. Last week, she put a small pride flag in her window and a sign that says all are welcome here. It's a small gesture, but it's something. I don't know if Rebecca has truly changed or if she's just trying to save her business. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe the outcome is what counts. One more shop where transgender people can feel safe. One more person who sees us as human. I'm 61 years old. I transitioned at 54, which means I lived most of my life as someone else. People sometimes ask me if I regret waiting so long, if I wish I had transitioned younger. And yes, of course I do. I wish I could have been Josephine at 20, at 30, at 40. I wish I could have lived more of my life as myself. But I can't change the past. I can only live in the present. And right now, in this moment, I am Josephine. I am a 61-year-old woman who shops for dresses and attends weddings and stands up for herself when people try to diminish her. I am someone who has learned that dignity is not given by others. It comes from within. I am someone who knows that speaking truth, even when your voice shakes, is always worth it. That day in the boutique, when the shopkeeper told me I didn't belong, she was wrong. I belong everywhere. In dress shops and churches and wedding receptions in this world. I belong because I exist, because I am human, because my identity is valid whether anyone else accepts it or not. And if you're transgender and you're reading this, you belong too. In every space, in every room, in every dress shop and every church and every family gathering. You belong because you exist. Your identity is valid. Your truth is real. And anyone who tells you otherwise is wrong. It took me 60 years to learn that lesson. I hope you learn it sooner than I did. My name is Josephine. I am a woman, and I belong.